The biggest lie in sales is that you need better closers. You don't. You need a better process. Most insurance agency owners think their income is stalled because their team can't close. So they buy more leads, they hire more experienced team members, and then they burn thousands on motivational speakers that call themselves coaches. But nothing changes. The numbers stay flat. The core problem isn't your team's closing ability, it's that you've trained them either directly or indirectly to be completely random. Today we're going to talk about the single most important asset in your agency, your sales process. In fact, I'm going to show you the 5-step sales process that took our agency from a good agency to a top 10 agency out of 19,500 agents, representing the largest captive insurance company. And in this video, I'm going to answer the 3 burning questions you have right now. Why do new team members start strong and then completely fizzle out after a few months? How can I make my team's sales consistent? What is the sales system that I can install in my agency today to fix 90% of my team's problems? And don't worry, this isn't another fluffy lecture on positive thinking or some generic outdated sales script that you can find on a blog from 2012. This is the exact framework that allowed us to hire people with 0 sales or insurance experience and get them writing auto fire life and health all within 30 days of walking through the door. I'm not going to teach you a few plays that work for a month. I'm going to give you the entire playbook that works in any rate environment with any product because it's built on the fundamental science of selling. Stick with me and you'll walk away with that blueprint. It's the only play you need to remember. When I first started selling, I thought I was a natural, I was confident, I could build rapport with anyone, and I could get people to like me. And you know what? It worked. Sometimes. I'd have a great month, I'd write more than anyone in our office, and I felt like I had it all figured out. Then the next month, crickets, a total nosedive. My income was a roller coaster. I'd have good months and then bad months, but I was never consistent, which led to the inconsistent paychecks, which was difficult when my landlord was very consistent with what he was charging for rent each month. It was the gnawing feeling of not knowing why. When a deal fell through after a 45-minute conversation, I had no idea where it went wrong. Was it something I said in the greeting? Did I build enough value? Did I mess up the close? It was just failure without a lesson every time I didn't close. I had no framework, no stage, no process. So I couldn't diagnose my problem. My approach was completely random, and so were my results. I remember one specific call, a referral that should have been a layup. The guy was unhappy about his current agent, the price was right, everything seemed perfect. We talked for an hour, we laughed, we connected, I thought it was a done deal. And at the end, he hit me with the, you know what, let me think about it and I'll call you back. When our scheduled time showed up on the calendar, he never did, and I spent the rest of the day replaying the call in my head, completely baffled. I had zero clue what I could have done differently. Have you ever felt that confusion after a lost sale? Let me know in the comments. I hit a plateau and I was stuck there, working harder than I needed to for results that were just average. I was burning out, convinced that to make more, I just had to make more calls, work longer hours, and it became a recipe for disaster. Everything changed when I hit the sales books and courses and learned that there should be a structured, repeatable sales process, a scientific framework, a map for every sales conversation, which made me for the first time see the sale as a series of distinct steps. I could identify exactly where I was winning and, more importantly, where I was losing. That referral I lost, I realized I hadn't lost him in the close, I lost him 5 minutes in because I never took control of the conversation. I let him lead me. This process made training easier, it made coaching myself possible, and it made my income predictable. That random gut feel approach was replaced with a system, and that system is exactly what I'm sharing with you today. Here's the reality for most agencies that have plateaued. The most misdiagnosed problem in sales is a random approach. You think you have a closing problem or a lead problem or even a motivation problem, but what you really have is a process problem. Your team is a group of artists, each painting their own picture, when what you need is a team of architects all building from the same blueprint. This random approach is killing your agency slowly and painfully. Everybody has their own way of doing things. Does not lead to a successful business. It's why your team's performance is a roller coaster. One month they're heroes, the next they're zeros. It's why you live in a constant state of feast or famine. It's why you can't scale. You can't build a bigger team because you can't replicate what your one rock star does instinctively. That top producer is all gut feel and charisma, which is great for them, but it's a terrible business model for you because it's not teachable. This randomness creates massive uncertainty, not just for you, but for your team. It leads directly to burnout because they just feel like they're working hard, but the results are just left to chance. They lose confidence, they get frustrated, and eventually they leave. And what happens when we're faced with this frustration? We start trying to fix the wrong things. We turn to false solutions. You've likely tried them. First, there's the more leads fallacy. You think if we just had more at bats, we'd get more hits. So you crank up your lead spend, the internet leads, or even Google ads, but your team doesn't have a process to convert those leads efficiently. You're just pouring expensive gasoline on a fire. You're paying more money to have your team practice their same broken, random approach on fresh prospects. And the result, your cost to close skyrockets and you're left wondering why leads don't work. Then there's the hire for experience trap. You decide you need proven veterans, so you hunt for team members with 10 years of experience. The problem is they often bring 10 years of their own bad random habits with them. They aren't coachable and they resist your systems because that's not how I've always done it. And you end up paying a premium salary for the random approach you were trying to escape. And finally, the worst thing you can do is pull away your top producer from producing and expect them to train. There's a reason Jordan didn't coach the basketball team. And now you're left with less production, a higher salary, and a sales manager that just gets frustrated that people aren't doing what they could do when they were producing. If you're nodding along, I get it. You're stuck in a cycle trying things that treat the systems but never cure the disease. The disease is randomness. The cure is a process. So you've tried that stuff and it didn't work, right? Well, the core issue is you're missing that architectural blueprint. You can't build a skyscraper without a blueprint, and you can't build a scalable sales team without a process. To fix that, I've put together a free one-page predictable sales process blueprint that outlines the 5 critical pillars every sales conversation must have. It's the first step out of the cycle of randomness into a world of predictability. The link is at the top of the description. Go grab it now. It'll make the rest of the video click into place. All right, so what's the real solution? It's a scientific, repeatable, and teachable sales process. A true sales process breaks down every interaction into distinct, manageable stages. In our agency, we use a framework built on the 5 core pillars. Think of it like this: attitude, greeting, fact-finding, presentation, and closing. Why is this so powerful? Because it turns sales into a science. When you have defined stages, you can diagnose problems with incredible precision. You're probably thinking, George, I have a process, but do you really? Or do you have a loose collection of things you hope your team says on a call? And if you're so confident, ask each of your team members to recite that process. Exactly. So let's get back into this. Let's look at the philosophy here. Phase 1 is the attitude phase, but it isn't about being happy. It's about having unwavering belief in your product and your company, because whoever is more sold on their case, you or the prospect, wins every time. Then the greeting isn't just about saying hello. It's about using a pattern interrupt to take control of the conversation and establish authority in the first 15 seconds. The fact-finding phase is the most important because it's the most underestimated step. Its goal isn't to just gather information for a quote. That's what amateurs do. The goal is to function like an advisor. Ask deep, diagnostic questions to uncover the true underlying problem, the pain point, before you ever recommend a solution. If you do this right, it'll be really difficult for the prospect to object since they told you about the problem that you're now solving. The presentation phase isn't about listing features, it's about presenting a holistic plan that solves the specific problems you uncovered during your fact finding. This is where you decommoditize your offer. You stop selling a price and start selling a personalized plan. It's hard to compare just auto insurance to having an offer where they have enough liability coverage, rebuilding a home, and leaving $1.5 million of life insurance to take care of their family. Finally, if you've done the first 4 steps correctly, the close isn't a high-pressure, awkward moment. It's a natural, logical conclusion to a conversation where you've clearly demonstrated more value than the price you're asking for. 68% of salespeople don't even ask for the close. Don't let that be you or your team. When you see sales as a clear, logical progression, everything changes. You stop guessing and start diagnosing. You can listen to a team member's call and say, okay, you lost that deal not because your close was weak, but because your fact-finding was very shallow. You never found the pain. Let's work on the questions you're asking in step 3. This is how you build a team of high producers. You give them the blueprint. I don't just say this to sound good. I say this because I live it and the numbers prove it. When we fully committed to this process-driven approach, everything changed. We grew our sales team from 2 people to 8 people in under 3 years, and all but one of them came to us with 0 sales or insurance experience. Let me repeat that, 0 experience. We didn't hire for skill, we hired for will, and we gave them the process. The result, our agency went from being the #1 agency in Iowa to the #6 office in the whole country. And let's talk about the holy grail for insurance agents: writing financial services, life and health on raw new business. It feels impossible for most people. They think you need a huge established book of business, but with a process, it becomes simple math. In our agency, 68% of our financial services, life and health, come from raw new production. Because our fact-finding phase is so thorough, we have found a direct, measurable relationship between having an in-depth conversation, which we track with a fact finder sheet, and writing a financial service, life or health. Right now, our team team average is one financial service written every 4 raw new households. So 25% of our raw new households come with a life or health policy. It's not luck, it's not magic, it's the process. What would that kind of production do to your agency? Let me tell you about one new hire. He came to us from a completely unrelated field. He was nervous on the phones, he was unsure of himself, but he was coachable. We didn't focus on closing techniques, we actually drilled the process, specifically his fact finding. We role played asking better questions over and over, and within his first 30 days, he wrote his first financial service on a cold internet lead. Why? Because the process gave him a confidence to dig deeper, find the need, and present a real solution. That's the power of a system over random talent. Okay, so you're bought in, you're realizing your process, but where do you start? It can feel overwhelming. So that's why there are 3 simple high-level steps you can implement immediately. First, audit your randomness. Before you can build something new, you have to understand what's broken. For 1 week, sit down with your team and have them map out what they do during a sales call. Don't judge, just observe. What's the first thing they say? How many different ways do they pivot to another line? Do they even pivot to another line? When do they bring a price? Write it all down. You'll be shocked at how different everyone's process is. You can't fix a problem you can't see. Second, define the objective for each stage. Once you have a rough outline, assign a single, clear objective to each step of your sales process. This is a massive mental shift. For example, the objective of the greeting isn't just to introduce yourself. The objective is to take control of the conversation and establish authority in the first 15 seconds. The objective of fact finding isn't to collect info for a quote. It's to uncover a problem so painful that the prospect is compelled to solve it. Work with your team to define these objectives. This alone will revolutionize how they approach each conversation. Third, implement one change at a time. Don't try to roll out a 50-page sales manual on Monday. You'll get massive resistance and nobody will follow it. Instead, start with one small, manageable change. For the next week, have every single person on your team use the exact same greeting on every call. Just focus on standardizing the first 30 seconds. Use a simple framework like the SPICE method: smile, posture, identify, clear intention, and engage, to lay out how to do a proper greeting and track the results. How did it feel? Did the call quality improve? Once that becomes a habit, move on to the next stage. Small incremental changes are what make a new process stick. Look, if you've been stuck on that revenue plateau, working longer hours and for the same results, a predictable, repeatable sales process is the ladder you need to climb out of that hole. It is the single most powerful tool for scaling your agency, developing your people, and finally winning back your time. And if you plan on working on your greetings first and would like to learn more about what the SPICE greeting framework is, watch my video on how to nail the first 30 seconds of an insurance phone call. It's the perfect step-by-step to building that rock-solid foundation for your new process. Click the video on the screen right now, watch it, I'll see you over there.